Life is full of adventure. Whether you're in your 4x4 taking to the open road and enjoying venturing into the unknown, or you're on your quad bike every weekend to eat some serious dirt, or on your motorbike to burn some rubber and ride off into the sunset on an otherwise lazy Sunday afternoon, or perhaps overlanding somewhere in the beautiful hills of Eastern Europe. And life's adventures may simply be more of the everyday adventures we experience too. Going to the seaside with your little lads, for example, hiking through a beautiful forest, or simply just camping in the miserable rain. And whilst living your adventure, whatever it may be, is your wrist armed with the right type of adventurer watch to accompany you on your journeys? Today, we're taking the macro lens to the Vespera by Microbrand Nadir, a watch created by an off-road enthusiast who took on the challenge of creating an old school adventure watch. And we take a very close look at every single aspect of this watch, as I always try to do for you, my lovely viewers, all 4 of you. And just a quick note for those of you who don't already know, I appreciate that my vids can be quite long, so I do leave chapters in all my reviews, so if you want to watch specific sections of my breakdown, then you can use those chapters to hop around. Oh, and don't forget to please leave a subscribe or a comment. I would absolutely love to hear what you think about this watch, or if you just want to say hello. And stick around to the end of my in-depth analysis of the Nadir Vespera for my usual end of review walkaround, as I go on my own little adventure and take it around the gorgeous coastal town of Scarborough, here in North Yorkshire. As ever, it's great to have you here. Now let's look at an overdramatic specification of this watch, all in the next 90 seconds. Nadir Watches is a Polish microbrand and was created by an off-road enthusiast who took on the challenge of creating an old-school adventure watch, and it all began with a simple idea to wear a timepiece that could seamlessly combine durability, a classic automatic mechanism, and a dual time feature. And actually, the fella in my 90-second spec riding his bike through the beautiful country of Bosnia and Herzegovina is the microbrand owner Bart Maniecki. And his mission at Nadir is to empower overlanders, motorcycle riders, off-roaders, motorsport enthusiasts, hikers and bikers with reliable and enduring timekeeping companions. And in my grubby, but rather soft hands today, I've been using a new hand cream and it's very good, is the Vespera, which is Nadir's debut watch, with the word Vespera of Latin origin meaning evening or night. And is available in blue, grey, and this, the black. So just to reiterate what was said in a very adventurous and wild 90-second spec, The Vespera comes in at 12.3mm thick, 42mm in diameter, 47mm lug to lug, 20mm at the lug, with this leather strap tapering down to 17mm by the time it reaches the signed buckle. Okay, so starting with the dial and working our way out. The thing that stands out the most for me on this matte black dial is most certainly the intricate blend of the hour markers and the minute markers that span the dial of this watch, and also one of the standout features, which is this orange strip which goes from the very heart of this watch and overlapping the date complication and into the 3. Now, starting with the markers, you have these very vivid and very pronounced numerals printed at the 12, 6 and 9, and white buttons every 5 minutes, less those numerals and the orange strip at 3. And those white buttons are outlined in orange. Now, they look pretty cool, right? But it's actually the orange minute markers that really are the prominent feature on this dial. It's kind of like a semi-train track that really dominates the perimeter of this dial. Admittedly, it looks far better in this colourway, black dial with the orange minute track, as opposed to the blue colourway and even the grey colourway, where the colours of that minutes track looks to conform more to a standard colour for such a feature on a watch dial, whereas this black colourway really feels like that it's this orange that is almost the primary colour. And that orange strip that runs into the 3 gives me vibes of racing car stripes and looks really cool in my opinion. Now, I've seen similar designs in other microbrands and it's always split opinion, but actually on this adventure watch I actually kinda like it. And note that it sports the product name Vespera with the automatic status under it. All a little small perhaps, and that automatic wording especially is quite difficult to see, but saying that any larger and it would look perhaps a bit too bullish and over exaggerated. Now, the Nadir logo under 12 is high polished, and whilst I like the concept of that, it does make it a bit difficult to read the brand name in certain angles of light, but at the same time that high shine does add a bit of glam to an otherwise matte dominated dial. You've also got the product logo just above the 6, again in high polish. And to top that off, you have these really well crafted square holes on the perimeter of that dial, and each square hole corresponds to an adjacent minute marker, so essentially you get 60 square holes across that dial perimeter. And at first glance, those holes really form a very unique part of this dial. They sandwich themselves between the minutes track of the dial and the minute markers of the inner rotating bi-directional bezel, which I'll come to in a minute. And I don't know, for me those holes are strangely complementary of the stitching of the strap and the overall ergonomics of having a rotating bezel blend into that dial. I think it looks really cool. The hands are these lovely faceted baton hands which are polished on one side and matte on the other, and that develop into a very elegant looking point, I must say. The hour hand falling nicely about 1 millimeter or so from the inside edge of the hour markers, with the minutes hand overlapping that minutes track and over the numeric minute markers. You also have a needle thin seconds hand in white and counterbalanced and the same length as the minute hand. Now, working our way out, you have this inner rotating bi-directional bezel controlled here by the crown at the 2 o'clock. This is a dual time feature and sports numerals by the hour printed in white with orange dots in between representing every minute. Now, the placement of the crown makes it for a slightly difficult rotation, I must say, and the tension is pretty firm, but it's not too bad. And I suppose the good thing about that is that the tension makes for a pretty firm and, dare I say, almost unmovable rotation with respect to accidentally turning it. And what I mean by that is, far too often I've worn dual timers and literally its respective crown rotates the inner bezel when I just move around as I would during normal activities throughout the day. So it's actually really nice to have a dual timer that stays put where I want it to stay put. Even if I don't use it, what its firmness will guarantee is that the 12 will stay at the 12 unless I move it and not slide around during the day, and thus triggering my OCD. The crystal is a flat sapphire crystal with 4 layers of anti-reflective coating. From a legibility point of view, you're not going to have any issues with this watch. I mean, the dial looks fairly complex, but at the same time it's fairly clear cut, and this sapphire glass is also not going to cause you any problems in certain angles of light. And the face of this watch is lit up with Superluminova BGW9 on the hands and on the hour markers, and well, there's not really much else I can say about the Lume, as it really does speak for itself. The case is 42mm in diameter and made from a quite stunning 904L stainless steel, otherwise known as oyster steel. Now, it's awesome to have a watch in my hand that isn't the industry standard 316L stainless steel and instead 904L, and quite beautiful it is. From lug to lug it protrudes out to form this flat part of the case, which I guess has been designed to house the dual crowns on the right hand side of the case, so it takes on a quite unusual shape, but one that I actually quite like. It's brushed, but you do have this polished chamfering that goes from lug to lug and doesn't actually taper as it reaches the point of that lug. Now, I think you'll agree that this 904L stainless steel looks so premium, and Nadir chose this grade of steel because they really felt that it gave off more silverish tones and more of a premium feel around the wrist, and quite right he was. It really is quite stunning in my opinion. And as I mentioned, that lovely shape of the case really is the perfect design aesthetic to house those two crowns. You've got the one at 2 o'clock, which controls the dual timer, and you have the primary screwed round crown at the 4, which again feels slightly awkward to grip due to its placement, but not overly difficult. Now, both crowns are nailed to give you a better grip, and the primary 4 o'clock screw down crown is signatured with an engraving of the Nadir logo. And I may appear quite strange in saying this, but I always feel sorry for the crown that doesn't have the logo when it comes to dual crowns. Now, I appreciate it's always the main crown that gets the royal treatment, but I don't know, one signatured crown out of 2 always makes me feel that the watch is somewhat incomplete. And also note that the Nadir Vespera is water resistant to 10 ATM or 100 meters, which is great if you want to dive from that quad bike and into a fast flowing water rapid, but I certainly wouldn't take it when I want to dive with sharks. The strap is a handmade Italian Pueblo leather and sourced from a world renowned leather tannery based in Tuscany called Badalassi Carlo. Now, it's a quite stunning full grain vegetable tanned leather that will age beautifully and develop character. The leather will take on marks and burnish up to achieve a more polished aesthetic and even a smoother feel over time, developing a unique and beautiful patina. It's black on one side with stitching and orange stitching towards the case to really complement the overall orange colour of the design, and the inside of the strap is tanned, and you've got the Nadir wording on the side of the strap with the adjustment holes, which looks really cool. It's then complemented by this signatured 316L stainless steel buckle, which I might add has been designed to colour match that lovely silver of the 904L. I mean, what can I say? This leather is one of the nicest, most pliable, softest leather I've ever felt. You really won't be disappointed. The movement is a premium Miyota 9015, 24 joules, 28,800 beats per hour, 42 hours of power reserve, hand windable hacking seconds, and a movement that is much loved and much revered in the microbrand world. Now, this movement sports a shock absorber, a Swiss anchoring inhibitor, and a manual hoist, and you'll really get a taste of those 28,800 half oscillations per hour as that needle thin seconds hand rotates around the complexity of the various minute markers you'll find on the dial, and indeed against that inner rotating bezel. And that movement is contained behind this awesome screw down caseback, which sports the really nice Nadir logo, which actually resembles the 4 cardinal directions which you'd normally find on a compass, but the Nadir logo showcasing 4 ends rather than the north, east, south, west. And that logo really does emphasize the adventure theme associated with this watch. And that logo is placed against this lovely pattern that really does bring this case back to life. You have some speck as ever on the perimeter of the caseback, but those overall patterns, as opposed to a flat caseback, will make for a more breathable feel against your skin. On my 7.5-inch wrist, it wears, well, what can I say? Quite simply, it wears exceptionally. It looks great too, with that funky case design and that complex dial, what with the numerals kind of scattered across in 3 differing sizes and the minute markers shown in all its various glory. It's a 42mm case, but certainly doesn't feel like it. 49mm lug to lug too, which on paper would suggest that it is of a reasonable size, but again sits a little smaller on my wrist. For an adventure watch, the case dimensions could be seen as rugged as they come, purely from the numbers you see against its dimensions, 42 by 49 by near 13. However, as much as I love that leather straps, it does make what feels like a very durable case feel a little dainty, and it certainly feels somewhat more delicate on the other side of my wrist too, as that strap tapers down to what I measured at 17mm. It is very much marketed as an adventure watch, a watch that can withstand the rigours of any adventure according to Nadir themselves, but it really does depend on the type of adventure you're going on. If you're going to participate in an endurance marathon or go rock climbing, then you're going to reach out for the wrong watch here. I mean, don't get me wrong, I really like the way it looks on my wrist, and for a, let's say, everyday adventure watch companion, taking the weekend Ferrari out for a Sunday spin, jumping on that quad bike, hike across the peaks, or simply going for a day out by the sea with your two young lads, then this is perfect for that everyday adventure category. In terms of price, the Nadir Vespera comes in at a juicy €490, that's around about 420 UK pound sterling or 530 USD, so well past that classification of a punt or an impulse buy for the majority of the souls that it may perhaps appeal to, and certainly one that is in the realms of serious consideration before one pulls the trigger on this. But just remember, 904L case and plenty of that luscious steel too, a dial that is very carefully designed and crafted, a leather strap that is beyond what one can consider as premium, and a movement that is revered by pretty much every watch enthusiast out there. So whilst there's consideration, it shouldn't take too much to twist one's arm. Overall, it's a fantastic watch by this Polish microbrand. It's bold, not just in its design or the ergonomics and build quality of that case, or indeed the elaborate dial design, but bold in that there was some seriously bold decision making when designing this watch. To take your own off-roading passion, whereby creating an old school adventurer watch was your dream, but then to opt for a very juicy case made from 904L and a leather strap that most would want to keep in pristine condition, I don't know, it's just bold. And you really have to have some serious balls to enter into the rugged watch market as a debut microbrand, showcasing some seriously premium elements of any watch. But then most watch enthusiasts like types and styles of watches, opposed to buying watches purely for their practical use, right? I mean, we all own divers watches, but how many of us actually dive? And we all own chronographs, but how many of us actually have used the functionality of a chrono to measure time? So equally, if you like rugged adventure watches but want one with premium features, top-end case material, top-end leather, and a movement that is part of Miyota's premium 9000 series, and are willing to pay a premium for what will essentially be a premium beta, then this watch is absolutely ideal for you.
Yeah, I looked at you on one of the days, you're like this. Yeah, and then like an hour later, it's switched it round. Are you cool? Yeah, yeah. Sometimes. Oh, short from t-shirt. It's a good song, isn't it? It has a few stories. Whoa! I'll pay you 16,000 billion pounds if you jump off me right now. Your balls might break, but...
I bet.